Home Folks, Visit 23, featuring Gaye Smith. Made possible in part by a first-name basis home care, elevating in-home care with offices in Melbourne, Mountain View, and Mountain Home as well. If you have a loved one that needs extra help in home, get details online at afirstnamebasis.com. That's afirstnamebasis.com. Hello everyone, I'm Ken Loggins and welcome to another edition of Home Folks here on the YouTube channel, Ken Loggins Online. While you're here, I appreciate you subscribing to the YouTube channel. That way you'll be in the know whenever new visits drop. You'll be notified whenever we have a new Home Folks visit online. It's absolutely free of charge to subscribe. And the next time you're on Facebook, be sure and follow the KLO Facebook page, as we call it, Ken Loggins Online, on Facebook. Really a privilege to visit with this very special lady today on this edition of Home Folks, a lady that's been a part of my life all my life and been a part of a lot of your lives. I'm chatting with Gaye Smith. Hello there. I'm glad you could fit us into your busy schedule today. You're always running, always taking care of other folks, and we appreciate that very much and appreciate you allowing us to visit with you for a while today. It's great to see you.
Well, it's good to see you too, Ken. I'm privileged to be here. I have got almost 84 years worth of memories here. I hope we can share some of them.
We've got some catching up to do. Your maiden name is Cooper, Gaye
Yes.
Cooper. Where were you born? Where was the home place? What's your earliest memories of that?
Well, I was born in Newburgh,
Okay.
1942, at my grandmother's house. Doc Kopp from Calico and Gaye Kopp, who are Bonnie's parents, they delivered me, and I was named after Gaye.
Is that right?
Yes.
I did not realize that.
Well, I found out the other day when I spoke with her that there are several Knowles in the Calico area, as well as some Gays that were named after her parents.
Okay.
Yeah, you remember him riding in the Pioneer Day Parade, Doc Kopp in that big old horse and throwing out suckers. But no, I was born down there, and my grandparents was Alfred and Lola. That was my mother's parents, and they lived down at Newburgh at that time. And then later we moved down to Knob Creek, and that's where Garland and Grace Cooper came in. That was my dad's folks.
Okay. And your parents' names?
Leon and Gladys.
And what did Leon do for a living?
We had cattle and a farm for years and years. And then in 1953, the cattle market must have gone. We had a stock truck. I mean, a big truck. That's all the transportation we had. We'd all load in that and go over to Brockwell on Saturdays and take our cream and our eggs and sell those over there. But in 1953, he sold the cattle, sold the truck, and bought a brand new Chevrolet.
There you go. Okay.
And then we moved out where his brother was in Tucson, Arizona. He was out there. Lowell Cooper, the oldest brother he had, was building a dam. He was a construction person. In fact, he was working at one time. I don't even know when the North Fork Dam was built, but he was involved in that as well, this brother of his. But we go out there and spend the summer, and then we go on up to Washington. Yes.
You just made the circle, didn't
We
you?
went to the apple orchard and then the hop orchard. And that was quite an experience for us. But a lot of people from Arkansas, of course, went there, but that was our first time.
Talk about your siblings. How many brothers, how many sisters did you have?
Well, I have two younger brothers.
Okay.
Millsy Kay, he was named after one of the Knowles guys, and my dad. Let me tell you about this one lady that was a Knowles.
Okay.
Before I get too much further. Her name was Bammy, and that was my great-grandmother. Her name was, are you ready for this?
You bet.
Alabama Francis, Essaloni, Bessaloni, Cuamine, Kitty Fisher, Valentine, Samantha Ann, Jane Uten. And that is the truth.
Wow.
Yes, and she's buried down at Knob Creek, we think. I was just talking to my aunt. The only sibling that my dad has left lives in Kansas City, as his sister, and she verified that. I called her this morning and verified that I wasn't dreaming things.
Is all of that on the marker, or how do they squeeze that on there?
No, of course not. No, it was not.
That's amazing.
But I was just asking her if she remembered this great-grandmother coming down to her house. Of course, she was gone by the time I was down there and young. But I remember her coming, and she had this big black bag that had Cracker Jacks. She had boxes of Cracker Jacks in it. And if you memorize the 23rd Psalm, you got a box of her Cracker Jacks.
There's some motivation.
That was motivation. But I said her name was harder to memorize than the 23rd Psalm.
Of course, yeah.
But anyway, back to my siblings. Kay, he lives up here in town now, and with his family. And, of course, his boys are grown and got kids of their own. But he's up on part of the home place up there. Then Lynn, my younger brother, he lives down in Cabot. And he comes up. He owns some acreage over here, Violet Hill area. And he comes up. He has a farm up there and got cattle. And right now he's in the process of getting his pond pushed out so he can add some more fish for his kids to fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the farm, I would imagine for you and your siblings, as soon as you were old enough, you were working pretty hard. Weren't you helping out on the farm?
Well, I think I was lazy.
Well, you're certainly making up for it now.
We had to go across the road there to the spring and carry water for wash day. I didn't like to do that, but I did.
I don't think anybody did, yeah.
Yeah, well, then we drilled a well. And I still didn't like wash day because we had to draw the water but this was after we had moved. Now, we're not in Knob Creek now. Okay, we're going to go back to Knob Creek.
Sure.
Because my mom ran the post office at Knob Creek by herself after my dad was in the Army. Kay was born while he was gone.
Okay.
And he was about 6 months old before my dad ever got to come back to Knob Creek.
Wow.
And so it was, I was about 4, I guess, when we moved where the home place is up here at Brockwell. And I went back and made it a point to find the deed where we had bought from Noel Walker. He lived across the road.
Okay.
And we've lived there ever since. And that's where the well water and the spring water and all everything was.
Now, what branch of the military did your dad serve in?
He was in the Army.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember him telling me that he had to guard prisoners in Germany.
Okay, so this was in World War II. Yeah.
Yeah, he was gone. And so my mother, she went ahead and ran the store and the post office there while he was gone.
Okay.
But I remember Robert and Chers, that's my great-grandparents. They lived up on the hill, up the creek up there. And when it would be stormy, here come Robert. He would carry me and take her up to the storm cellar up there and protect us while he was gone.
So you're surrounded by a lot of family.
I've got lots of
early
family.
on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your neighbors are practically family.
Yeah.
So how were you when you made the move to Arizona?
Well, Kay and I were discussing that. I think we came back. I remember going to school out there in the 6th grade as well in Washington. And then I was a coyote.
Yeah.
We went
you
to school.
Started at Violet Hill.
Yes, we did. But when we came back, finished out the 6th grade and the 7th there, and I'm thinking it was the 8th grade when we moved to Melbourne. Of course, then you had to have land in the school district. Of course, the Violet Hill bus went right by the house every day, went on down into Newburgh and back. And my dad then, after we got back from Arizona and Washington, he got a job in the courthouse, in the revenue office is where he started. He was in there for years. So he drove to town every day. So he decided we needed to go to school at Melbourne and be a Bearcat. As it happened, we had land that went over into the Melbourne School District. So that was very legal. We
It
could
was
do that.
legit.
Although the bus didn't come up around the curb and pick us up. So we rode in with him every day.
Backtracking to those Violet Hill years, elementary school years, any teachers stand out? Any friends stand
Well,
out?
of course, Miss Tracy Lee Simpson was there. And
Okay.
then Catherine Roberts, she moved
Yes.
into town down here.
My Head Start teacher.
Yeah, she was special. But when Dad decided that we needed to come to Melbourne, I said, I can't go to Melbourne. I'll just run away from home. I'm just not going to Melbourne. Okay, so
And
we
you
go.
wind up being an employee of the Melbourne School District later on.
We go to school, and I think, Dad, why didn't you make us come on down here earlier?
That's how life happens.
Exactly.
More often than not.
Yeah.
You had a lot of transitions there as a child.
I did.
Going to school in Arizona, then out in Washington. Talked a little
Washington,
different than
yes,
everybody
yes,
else,
yes.
and everybody noticed it and drew attention to it. And sometimes kids that age are not that forgiving about it, but you adjusted.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The Washington years, talk a bit about your work out there as far as...
Well, all I remember, I would pick a little while, and then I'd lay under the tree and rest.
I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people did that.
We were young, but
Yeah.
it
did
was
your
an
part.
experience. It was an experience. I think I made enough to buy me a new coat that had a big fur collar on it, and it had a hand muff that went with it. Now, that was my contribution to the Washington.
Well, you needed that out there with the weather
and
climate.
I got to bring it back home and show it off.
Exactly. Okay. Hey, we're visiting with Gaye Smith on this edition of Home Folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to remind you, we couldn't make it run without our Home Folks partners. We appreciate John David and everyone at Triple M Discount and Miller Poultry and Cattle, your home for silk flowers, cemetery arrangements, hardware, tools, home decor, fresh eggs, locally raised beef as well, 2412 East Main in Melbourne. Thank you to Joy and Hazel and everyone at Sharp County Outdoors, 587 Highway 62 West in Ash Flat, your go-to for sales and service of used tractors, equipment, ATVs, and UTVs. Thank you to Shane and everyone at Townsend Spice and Supply, 725 East Main in Melbourne, specializing in custom spice blends, herbs, and seasonings, spicing things up since 1978. It's Townsend Spice and Supply. Also, couldn't do it without Sonia Hames-Wiles Family Dentistry on the south side of the square in Melbourne. Call for your next appointment, 870-368-6666, 870-368-6666. We're visiting with Gaye Smith on this edition of Home Folks. We've been covering ground in her elementary school years, not only being a Violet Hill Coyote, then you're moving to Arizona, Washington, back to Melbourne. You become a Bearcat, and this is about the 8th grade or so. Yeah. You're an athlete, aren't you? Are you playing basketball by this time?
Yes, I enjoyed basketball. That was one thing that I really, really enjoyed. Mm-hmm.
Talk about those high school years a bit, some of your teachers, your favorite subjects, who you ran with more often than not.
Well, some of the teachers that I remember I later worked with, but for elementary, Miss Faye Byram was one of them that I remember so well. And then the girls that I ran with, Retha Wyatt Lamb and Ernestine Woods Todd and Charlotte Majors Sharp. And we had open campus then. We could leave campus if we wanted to run up to the restaurant.
Is that right?
Or we can run across the job station and get something, or we could go to the Dairy Queen there. Mm-hmm. And Retha had a car. The rest of us didn't have a car, but Retha had transportation. Of course, like you say, I did enjoy the basketball. And then in the 9th grade, Yogi Clark was the coach. He moved me up to the senior team because there was a girl that got married and left. Mm-hmm. So you
were drafted.
I was drafted, and I loved it, yeah. But then before I graduated, I had, besides Yogi Clark, had Newt Blankenship for a while, and then Wayburn Watson. And I don't remember how all of those transitions happened.
Pretty good coaches to learn under.
Yes, it was a pleasure. It sure was.
And I imagine some pretty good ball teams during those years.
Well, I had some good players. Let me think. We won the county in my junior year. We could go on to the district, but at that time, that's as far as you could go unless you won the district. But we got the county, and I don't even remember about the conference, but Viola had a team, was really, really good. But then they had a post girl. And of course, this is 3-on-3. This is half court stuff, you know. But they had an extremely good team, and they beat us in the district, and they got to go on. But it made us feel good that they also won the state.
Well, that's a little bit of consolation, yeah.
But some of the players that I played with that particular year was Retha and Shirley, Eula Faye Hunt, and Donna Jo Stubbs.
Okay.
And we worked well together and had a lot of fun and a lot of traveling and everything.
During these high school years, are there subjects you like more than others, things you excel at more than others as far as school?
Well, excel, I don't know. We only had 17 in our class to graduate, and I wound up salutatorian.
Okay.
But that was because we had valedictorian.
It still counts. It's still an impressive feat.
But no, Anita Southard and Retha were the valedictorians, and I was third, but out of 17.
What class was that? What year?
1960.
Class of 1960.
1960.
Okay.
Like a long time ago.
Aside from playing basketball, what other extracurricular activities did you find yourself in high school?
Well, everything there was to join, you know. Of course, we had the Beta Club and and another teacher I remember is Miss Tetrick Campbell. Okay. She was a home ec teacher. And she tried to teach us to sew, but sometimes we let our sewing machine get a little fast. She'd have to call us down. But that was some fun times. And of course, up in the other building was Miss Vera and Herndon Frizzell. He was a really good teacher. Of course, the year I graduated, Loy Fudge was the superintendent that year, and he taught chemistry as well. Okay. And then, of course, Gene Blankenship was the business teacher. I don't recall how fast I got typing. I don't think it was real fast, but I did have to use it later, whereas I didn't use my shorthand that much.
Can you pinpoint roughly, approximately, or you might remember the exact date when you first ran across James Smith? Well,
I remember him walking me, and it must have been in the 10th grade that he would walk me from Gene Blankenship. I don't remember what class he was in, but he was down there in that longer old building, and he'd walk me from business up to the home ec building on his way over to the gym, I guess to the smoking area, because he didn't play basketball. You know, at that time, that was all there was.
It was one or the other, yeah.
Basketball or the ditch, they called it. And he would walk me up there, and of course I couldn't date then, but he was pretty special.
Something clicked, yeah.
It did, you know.
Now at this point in high school, when you and James are, like you say, walking each other up and down the hall, does he already have the nickname? I've lived almost 58 years, and I've never known the exact origin of the nickname for James Smith. Everybody's probably wondering, who's this James Smith y'all are talking about? It's Bat Smith, yeah. But I told myself, well, I'm sure Gaye has to know. Can't wait to hear that story.
Well, here's the story that I have that was told to me, that when he was a little boy and he was riding the bus from out there, and there were, I don't remember, some older Haney boys on that bus. And this little fella had the fattest little cheeks. He was a little chubby guy, had cute, fat cheeks. And they started teasing him and calling him fat. And, of course, when he would pick up rocks and chunk at them, never died. They never let it stop. From then on, he was Fat Smith. And people everywhere knew him and didn't know his name. I mean, we horse showed, we did field trials, and everybody, he was Fat Smith.
Yeah. Well,
and he never was fat.
No,
until
no.
He got a little thick around the middle in middle age.
We all do, yeah.
But that's where that came from, was some Haney boys.
Okay.
On the bus. Isn't that amazing how something will stick?
Yeah, it's funny how those nicknames happen and how they stick. A little bit of backstory about his family in particular, his parents.
That was Wilkin Henry Smith and Capitola Copeland. Wilkin passed away when he was 52. We had only been married a year. He had cancer. Mm-hmm. Then she was there for a couple of years alone, and then she moved out to New Mexico with her oldest daughter, Carrie. Okay. Pat had an older sister, Carrie. He had an older brother, Roger, and he had an older brother, John. John was in California. She moved out there to help Carrie with her little one. She had a little boy named Jimmy and a little girl named Debbie, and she babysit them and stayed out there with them. And so we started the process of buying the farm from all of them because they were all gone. And it took us a while. He lived out there on that farm his entire life.
Possum Trot Road.
Possum Trot Road. Mm-hmm. In 1910, Robert Milton Smith, I have abstracts dating back to 1910.
Wow.
That's how long that has been in this family. And I've lived there for 62 years now. We moved out there in 64. And I've had 3 different addresses. Mm-hmm. Post Office Box 151, Rural Route 156, HC 80 Box 836, and now I live at 1426 Possum Trot Road.
But it's all the same place.
All the same, and it's been a transition because it was muddy dirt roads when we moved. It was wonderful when we got blacktop roads, city water. I have never complained about my water bill. Mm-hmm. Not one time have I complained. But yeah, it's been great. Pat was born there in that house.
We're visiting with Gaye Smith on this special edition of Home Folks, and we appreciate our Home Folks partners so very much. People like Mike Watson State Farm Insurance, with offices in Highland and Melbourne, everywhere online at talktomikewatson.com. That's talktomikewatson.com. Southern Tire Mart, 1100 North St. Louis Street in Batesville, for passenger tires, commercial truck tires, construction equipment tires, and more. They keep America rolling at Southern Tire Mart. Future Fuel Chemical Company in Batesville, leading the way when it comes to the manufacture of specialty chemicals and biofuels. Also thanks to Cooper's Hawk and the Hawk's Nest Grill in Melbourne, ranked 25th nationwide when it comes to favorite public golf courses. Cooper's Hawk, come and play, come and stay. We're visiting with Gaye Smith on the special edition of Home Folks, talking about, I guess you would call it, the courtship of Fat and Gaye Cooper at the time. Do you remember exactly how James would pop the question?
Oh, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Oh, he was such a character. I graduated from school, and we'd been dating some, and he would go to Washington, and I dated a couple, nothing. When he came back, we were back
Pick right back up. Yeah.
But I graduated, and I was working there at school. I was working for Lloyd Budge and Herndon Brazil in the office down there. And at noon, he was out of school, and he was working at White Sawmill up there. I think he was making about $60 a month. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was working, and he had this little car. And at lunchtime, he would come pick me up, and we would go up to Leo and Melissa's and have lunch.
Okay.
And before school started that year, I had to go to Paducah, Kentucky to my aunt. She was having a baby, and my uncle wanted me to come and help him with a little bit. So I'd been gone a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm back. I'm at work. He's picked me up. We've gone to eat. We come back and we park. He reaches over in the glove compartment and opens it and brings out this engagement ring. He missed me while I was gone. He went and bought an engagement ring. And I said, I can't take that here. I'm not going back in that office with Newt Blankenship and Wayburn Watson. And, I can't do that. So I didn't take it until that night when we went on our date ring. But now we had planned, it wasn't official, but I felt like I knew, and evidently he did too, that we belonged together.
And the parents on both sides were good with the choice.
They kind of thought that probably would happen, yeah.
And where would the wedding take place?
We didn't have a big venue like they do today. We were working, and we thought, well, we won't get married for a while. We'll save some money so we can afford to get married, and provide a place. Well, months rolled on, and it's hard when you're dating. You don't save a lot of money. So we decided, okay, we're going to get married. January the 20th. Kennedy was getting inaugurated that day. But why 20th, I don't remember. But anyway, we go to Melbourne First Baptist Church. I guess it was because he goes to the Church of Christ, I'll go to Belview. So we go and ask Hugh Cooper to do the ceremony. Okay. And Theo Harris was playing the piano. Okay, well, the weather was bad. It was snowy.
Really? Yeah, yes. January.
Yeah, it was snowy. I didn't have a gown trailing everywhere, It was just pretty simple. I didn't have bridesmaids, maid of honors, the big to-do. But we did have Buck Stroud was his best friend, and Norma Jean and I had gone to school at Violet Hill together, and she was my close friend, and they were dating. Well, we waited, and they didn't show up. They had slid off of the road over at Myron when he went to pick her up. We walked ourselves down the aisle, and we got married. And got a few wedding pictures, not like what you see these days,
Well, I'm glad everybody was okay after sliding off the road. That's
they finally showed up, but it was too late. And we didn't go way away. We went to Thayer, Missouri for our honeymoon. And I do remember, though, that somebody threw rice because I shook my head and rice fell out everywhere. So it was semi like it was these days. But anyway.
Much more with our very special guest, Gaye Smith, on the way when Home Folks Visit 23 continues. I do want to remind you, Home Folks would not be possible without fantastic partners like United Country Ozark Realty. With proven results when it comes to buying or selling, you can trust their award-winning team to give you expert guidance every step of the way. 870-368-4155. And online at ozarkrealtyinc.com. Also, Farm Bureau Insurance of Fulton County and Izard County. It's where you'll find Agency Manager Philip Steed working alongside agents Jesse Whitaker, Ross Carter, and Seth Godwin. Call 870-895-3180. Let's enjoy some more memories with our very special guest, Gaye Smith, here on Home Folks Visit 23. You're working at school, and how long is it before Fat gets involved with the phone company?
It's not very long. We were blessed that we moved across the road to the old Noah Walker house for 2 years, and rented that across the road from my mom and dad. And see, I had already had Tom.
62.
62. I was working, and had him, and so my mom kept him. I can't remember who it was, but someone came to repair the phone line and said there was an opening, and he went down and applied and worked there until I think about 76.
Long time.
Long time. We were blessed. He had insurance, and we bought stock and
great place to work.
Jerry McFarland and Hoot Rush, that's another nickname. His name was Alton, but he worked with him. And of course, they had the main office down here for a while, now that I remember.
And he loved working the farm so much and working with horses and his cattle. and eventually cutting horses. That's what I think of when I think of Fat Smith. He loved the farm, he loved the rural life, and loved being outside.
Yeah, he worked at the telephone company, and I was still at school. Like I say, my mom was keeping Tom. And then I got pregnant with Al. And then
just a couple of years later, Al would come along.
And so we moved. That was that summer that we moved and bought the farm out there. And so I retired. Mm-hmm. And so he went ahead working. We moved out there in 1964. It took us a long time to pay for 160 acres, and then we added another 100 to it. And we raised the boys there, and 7 years passed before we knew it, And, of course, I was a stay-at-home mom with the boys. And then in 1975, I got a call from Jerry Blankenship was on the board. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Gaye, would you be interested in coming back to work?" And, of course, Grant.
He had come along in 72,
he was
71.
He was in 71. He was still not school age, so I was still home. But the other two boys, were older and up in school. And he wanted to know if I'd be interested in coming back. And that was before Grant started to school a few months. So here's Papa and Granny again, keeping Grant for a few months until the summer, and then he started school the next fall.
Mm-hmm. A little bit had changed at the school campus since you were there last time.
My goodness gracious, yeah. But this husband of mine that loved horses and was so talented. He was such a gifted man, and he rode, and we had horses, and the kids' horse showed, and we had traveled and done all this during that time. When I think back, what I put my mother and daddy through, one time we met a guy from Texas down in Texarkana and bought a horse. Tom was 6 years old, and we put him on that horse in the Buckaroo Pleasure, when he was 6. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks later, Al decided that, hey, I need to ride. And Boyce Cook, and they had a horse that was so, so gentle. We put him on a horse at 4. And when I think back about my mom and dad and going watching them, that is cruel. If my kids put my grandkids, if they had, it's just unbelievable.
The things we don't think about, though, when we're younger.
After I went back to school, and the kids were all in school, then he hung up his shingle out there. Mm-hmm. He quit the telephone company and started riding, cutting horses. He had been training and riding his own, but he then took in other people from areas. He had them from everywhere,
Visiting with Gaye Smith on this edition of Home Folks, and we couldn't do what we do without fantastic Home Folks partners like Izard County Abstract, with an office full of names you know and trust: Miller, Rush, Caraway, Morris. Serving you since 1954, it's Izard County Abstract. Also, thank you to Sanders Lee White Investments, offering fast cash for your land, home property, personal property, and estates too. Call 870-291-7110, 870-291-7110. Appreciate White River Health as well. In 2026, this year celebrating 50 years since the opening of White River Medical Center in Batesville. To find the clinic location nearest you, whiteriverhealth.org. It's whiteriverhealth.org. White River Health, caring beyond healthcare. We're visiting with Gaye Smith on this very special edition of Home Folks, and we talked earlier about how Pat was going to the Church of Christ, you were going to Belview. Yeah. You met in the middle to have the wedding at First Baptist, but you would settle at Belview, wouldn't you, as far as a church home through the years, and you're still out there to this day.
Yeah.
Some of the things that jump out in your mind when you talk about Belview Baptist Church, and this can be pastors, friends, what a ride it's been out there.
One of the first memories is going to Bible school way out in the old church.
Mm-hmm. Now, give us a history lesson exactly. Where was that?
You turn there where H.P. Langston had his And it was just a building down there. And I remember Gaye Cooper and I would try to, and I think he probably usually always beat me memorizing most Bible verses during the Bible school. We didn't have a nursery at that time, and so you'd have to keep the boys in there and keep them entertained and everything. But the older ladies that were such an inspiration, Josie Cooper and Lola Wilson and Oma Cooper and Juanita Cooper and Jewel Lawrence and Nidra Stinson, you know, those ladies. Sunday nights, especially in the wintertime, I'd think, we don't want to get these boys ready and get back down to church. And then I'd look and think about these sweet little old ladies. If they can do it, I can do it. So they were an inspiration to me to stay faithful, come on back, no matter. But you know, when you've got little ones and you're young and working.
Well, you're setting an example right now with all the work that you do. You know, just like those ladies set the example for you. It's come full circle.
Yeah. Now, Mom used to go. She was instrumental in taking people to the doctor and going to the nursing homes and stuff. So, and then of course I remember Shaw Griffin. Yeah, I think he's the one that was instrumental in baptizing us. And then Noble Wilds was there, Raymond Carneal, and then of course Jess Summerall and Tim Porter. And then we had, you know, Chris Thorman, and some of these were up at the new church, you know, when we were there. But
so great times there at Belview Baptist Church.
I've got one story I have to tell you about Skeet Cooper down in the old church. On Sunday nights, you know, when we would go back, he was the song leader, always Skeet Cooper. He was the song leader, very good. And we had several that were really good at the piano and would help him. But on Sunday nights, he would pick out his song, and then he'd look back there and he'd say, so-and-so, you need to come on up here and help me sing. Come help me. And then he'd look over, he'd say, so-and-so, you come on up here and help us. And before he was through, he had half the Sunday night congregation up on the stage helping him.
So who are we singing to now? Yeah.
Gayle had the youth choir, and Tom was in that. I remember now that he was in that. And they traveled to different places and sang and performed, you know, for people and spread the gospel.
I had the privilege of going to school with each of your sons, and not in the same class. They were kind of spread around me a little bit. I have nothing but fond memories. You, in fact, did such a great job. Of course, Tom, taken from us way too soon. What a legacy he has left as far as a great example for the community. And I had this talk with Ann and LD. We were talking about Rebecca. And I said, well, we will never understand why things happen this side of heaven, but we're going to see him again. That's one of the greatest assurances we can have, that there's going to be a reunion.
Exactly. And, we're looking forward to it.
Exactly. Tom was actually 1 year older than my brother, who was 5 years older than me. And Tom didn't have to give somebody my age a time of day. But I would go along with my brother to their basketball practice. And after Coach Qualls would let them out, Tom would stay behind and shoot a little bit. And he would let me rebound for him. And I thought that was a big deal.
Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, like I said, he didn't have to, you know, back then it probably wasn't that cool for a senior to be so nice to a sixth grader, but he was. And he always, and he always took time to say, well, how are things going? How you doing?
You know, Tom was a horse rider.
He was, wasn't he?
I don't know if I told you that he rode in the amateur in Fort Worth, and his Timothy Project, his Dominican Republic. And
very heavily involved in mission work, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And he took several people down there. He went with Tom Cone and Kevin Johnson and Blaine Johnson and Cole Caraway and Ryan Howard. Austin was up the other day turkey hunting, and he had gone with his dad 3 times and was really impressed with him. And then they did the Score International with Ron Bishop. That's where they took athletes over there and promoted their ministry through athletes. And then they went to Jay Munoz, who started the Timothy Project with them, where they started teaching and preparing young pastors. And they'd go out to these churches and organize them. So that was one of his really, really main things that he enjoyed doing. He loved his airplane too.
Yeah, that's right.
He did his
That's
airplane.
right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, but when he moved up here, he bought one and lived it. Of course, his dad and me never did have enough nerve to ride with him, but he enjoyed that. But while he was here, he coached the junior girls to the junior girls championship, and he also got up at the ICC county tournament that year. He got presented with the third annual Harold Ray Jeffrey Sportsmanship Award.
Well deserved. Yeah. I remember one of the most moving, and I'm sure you've seen this before, but one of the most moving parts to me of Kevin Johnson's testimony was his friendship with Tom. And when Kevin was going through some of his darkest times, health-wise, day in, day out, Tom Smith was a constant encourager. And they're together again, right now.
Yeah, he and Tom Cone, Kevin Wild.
We've lost way too many, way too soon. Yeah. But like I said, we know they're in a much better place than we can even conceive of. So
waiting for that day.
Exactly. More memories with Gaye Smith, our very special guest here on Home Folks Visit 23, on the way shortly. I do want to remind you, Home Folks would not be possible without the help of great folks like Ozarka College, changing lives since 1975. A reminder, the Ozarka College Foundation offers the Tom Smith Memorial Scholarship. Since its inception, awarding $4,250 to several deserving Ozarka students. For more information on the Tom Smith Memorial Scholarship and other scholarship opportunities at Ozarka, visit ozarka.edu. That's ozarka.edu. Home Folks also wouldn't happen without the fantastic folks at Finders Keepers Thrift Shop, 1195 East Main in Melbourne, encouraging you to help in their efforts to launch Beautifully Broken Arkansas, a safe haven for women victimized by abuse. Please follow both Finders Keepers and Beautifully Broken on Facebook. A little bit more ground to cover right now with our very special Home Folks guest, Gaye Smith. It's Home Folks Visit 23. Al came along and made golf cool at Melbourne School. There wasn't a whole lot of golfing going on before Al Smith. Where did he, as far as you know, where did that spark come from?
Where he got it.
Where did he take up the game of golf and become so good at it so quickly?
Well, my brother lived in Jacksonville. My brother Lynn, the youngest one, and he lived on the golf course, Greystone Country Club there. Al used to go visit him. He had a son that was about his age, and they would play. And he got hooked and got good.
Yeah.
Of course, you knew he went to Lake City, Florida for his degree. Yeah. But then he came back and worked at the country club at Little Rock, and then over at Indian Hills and Mountain Ranch, and then to Cherokee, and then finally came home.
Okay.
But now he's teaching. Of course, his son Dylan has played everywhere, played college, and it's just, that's where he got the bug. He really did for my brother.
Golf really wasn't on anybody's radar back when Al took it up, and now it's on everybody's radar. You see what Cooper's Hawk is doing out here.
Yeah, he has. He's been very busy. In fact, he has some points now in the senior. He's getting on up there now. He'll be 62 this year.
No way that's possible.
I know. Where did the years go?
All three of your sons, Tom, Al, and Grant, they had different personalities, yet they all seemed to have Fat's mischievous streak.
They did.
They were all jokesters and pranksters in a different sort of way. I remember when Grant, he might have been 4 or 5 years old, we'd be out Fudge Ballpark, and his deal was, I can wiggle my ears. And we would all watch him wiggle his ears, and he could. We would actually give him quarters and stuff. Wiggle your ears, Grant, please, just like Fat at the coffee shop, holding court, entertaining, you know. Talk a bit about Grant.
Of course, he started riding horses young.
Yeah.
He started young. And
Remember that.
He went to this high school rodeo, and he won the boys' high school rodeo cutting. So we took him up to Pueblo, Colorado, to the national. They asked him to go up there. And so we went, took him up there, and he had also qualified in bull riding, but we won't talk about bull riding. And he got fourth in the nation up in Pueblo and won a scholarship down to BB. So he went down there for a couple of years, and then went to Jonesboro, graduated. But he was, we hauled him all the time with Fat, and he was capable of showing in the non-pro. And during his junior year, he won enough money to buy him a little truck to go to high school in. He was really a hand. He took after his dad.
I'm going to say a rock star in that
He could
field.
show a horse. He really, really could. But
and how's he doing these days?
well, he's living there on the farm, and he's on a tractor most of the time now. He's cleared. The farm never looked so good. It looks the best. Pat would be so proud of that. But he's got his cattle out there, and but yeah, we've been blessed to have the kids there.
I always appreciated your sons. They were always great friends of the family. We weren't too far away from y'all out there. We were right across the highway from Possum Trot Road. Yeah, just great memories of a great family. You saw a lot of change in the Melbourne School District over your years. Worked with a lot of great people, and
I did.
after you were talked into coming back in the early '70s. You stayed for a good long while.
I did. I stayed, well, actually we had 28 years in there. But in 2003, I was having a granddaughter born out, and Kathy were having Allison. And my mom and dad were needing some help. I would go, I'd pick her up and go up there and help them. And so, yeah, that's when I retired, was when she was born. She was born in May, and I retired then. But of course, when I first started, I had a manual typewriter and had 5 carbons and an old copy machine, the duplicating machine. And then when I left, I finally accepted the computer. And I finally put attendance and everything on the computer.
Well, I can remember you and Glenda running a pretty tight ship there in the office as far as
party slips and so forth.
having to not only keeping the students in line, but making sure the superintendents and the principals were all heading in the right direction and doing what they needed to do. Good times.
When they called me back, it was Bob Guthrie.
That's right.
And he was a very easygoing person, He would be out on the campus and going around, and I'd be in a dither about something, and he'd say, "Now, Hilda," he called me Hilda. I promise you, he did. He'd say, "Now, Hilda, that old sun's gonna set over here every day, and it's gonna rise over here every day." And he and I were new together. But then, of course, I had so many after. But what they'd do, they'd graduate up there, and then they'd come back and teach. That's how long I stayed there. I was ancient, but no, there were a lot of mechanical improvements, and then of course no smoking. Finally got banned,
by the wayside
and then
after a
the
while.
Safety at the end. I remember Mr. Cooper was the last one. He and Mr. Powell were the last ones, and they'd stand at the door and make sure that they had some doors locked, and the others, they would make sure the kids got in there safe. And it's gotten so much worse now. It's, out here now, you have to be rung in, which it's necessary these days.
It's just part of life. One of the things that's really sobering for me is to walk over to that old campus and go to the old gym slab and think to myself, was it really this small? I mean, it seemed like Madison Square Garden back in the day, but like now it's just like as big as this room we're recording in today.
Can you believe what we have in this town? I've got to brag on our town a minute. The school. I was out there last night at the gym to the band concert, but I had just come from the ball field. We've got 4 of those fields, and then of course the football stadium there, this football field. we've just been, and then of course I could hear the trap shoot thing down there. We've got so many opportunities now. And then you could look over and we've got the airport, we've got the college, but yet this small town is the best when you need, somebody's in trouble and needs a fundraiser. This town turns out.
Yeah.
We're just so blessed. We've got big city functions, but yet we are still a small town and care about people. This brother was telling me yesterday, the one in Cabot that golfs, Lynn, he was telling me about Cooper's Hawk being ranked 25th in the nation for public golf courses.
And there's a lot of public golf courses.
In Arkansas, they're ranked very high.
Oh, yeah.
And that's right. I said, I
Top
remember,
5.
I remember Dutch and Myrtle Winfrey. That's where the clubhouse is right now.
Yeah. What would they think now about this whole thing? How times have changed. Our Home Folks Visit with Gaye Smith, brought to you in part by Campbell's Auto Sales, 1100 East Main Street in Melbourne for your next pre-owned vehicle, bad boy mower, ATV, trailer, or laser wash car wash. It's Campbell's Auto Sales. Remax Edge Realty in Melbourne. Thank you to Brandy and her crew, 1188 East Main Street, helping buyers and sellers achieve their dreams. Your hometown agents, Remax Edge Realty in Melbourne, 870-916-2008. Also, thank you to Bill Davis Trucking and Bray Fast Freight, specializing in state-of-the-art temperature control, secure transport, always on the lookout for team drivers. If you'd like to be a part of the team, be a part of working in a family atmosphere, give them a call or check them out online, BillDavisTrucking.com, BillDavisTrucking.com, BrayFastFreightLLC.com. It's BrayFastFreightLLC.com. It's Home Folks, and we are visiting with Gaye Smith on this very special visit. We talked about Tom, Al, and Grant. They grow on up, get families of their own, and talk a bit about those families.
When Tom moved up here, I had all 3 boys here for a little while. He came up and he coached, a year. And I had all 3 boys and all the grandkids under the same roof on Sunday morning at church.
You're thinking to yourself.
I didn't take it for granted either. I was blessed. Yes.
Exactly.
Of course, the grandkids are healthy and happy and busy. They don't have as much time for their grandmother as I wish they did anymore, but that's understandable. But the little ones now, of course, I've got 2 that live over in Jonesboro, and I don't get to see them as often, but the 5 live here. Of course, that's Logan's little ones. And so I cook Sunday dinner. That's the only time I cook, 'cause I don't cook for myself. But so I never know if I'm going to have 5 or 15 for Sunday dinner, but it's just such a pleasure to have the little wiggers there. And I get to see them and get my hugs. And
if we can clone Gaye Smith, we can have you in 2 or 3 different places at the same time. We need to get that done some way, somehow.
The nursing home a while ago to visit my I try to go by there every day. And Bob Morris, he says, you've got to rest. Here you needed to be 3 people again. But, of course, I just pop in and say, hey. I don't sit down and visit like Mildred Cheatham used to, bless her heart. She was such an inspiration. I'm doing, following in her footsteps, I do the cards for our Sunday school class now, like Mildred used to do. And, of course, since COVID, I've had to forge a lot of names. But I have to have help. I like to work for the Postal Service. I tell them, these shut-ins and the sick people, and the little ladies that are not as healthy as me. I've just been blessed with such good health. So I go and visit and take cards. And I go in and tell them I'm working for the Postal Service. And they don't pay real good,
Here's an interesting question. What does Gaye Smith do for Gaye Smith these days as far as spare time? Or are these acts of service what you're doing for Gaye Smith?
Exactly. If I stay home and I know there's somebody over there is sick and I don't go see them, I feel guilty. But I go to the teacher retirement quarterly. I belong to the EHC club, and that's monthly. I have a book club, that's monthly. And then this afternoon, I'll go up to the church. We cook for the kids during school terms. And then in the Manor House on Thursdays. I work down there on Thursdays. I love to travel.
Mm-hmm. And talk about a few of the places you've had the opportunity to see.
The first opportunity was to Israel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have floated on the Sea of Galilee. I've baptized in the Jordan River and seen where Jesus has walked. And since then, I have really, really enjoyed the next trip. I went to Washington, D.C. with the grandkids, Washington, D.C., New York City. Next year, I went to Peru on a mission trip with David and Naomi and all. Of course, they were on the Israel trip as well. Mm-hmm. And I love it. God has created so many beautiful places out there and people. I've been to the Grand Canyon, Hoover Dam, Las Vegas, Niagara Falls, the Ark and the Creation Museum, Savannah, Georgia, and Augusta and Paris Island. I've been to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and the Smoky Mountains at Gatlinburg, Mackinac Island. I'm fixing to go to Ireland.
Incredible.
I have really, really enjoyed it. And every part of the country's different.
Sure.
It's just a wonderful thing. But I have to stay busy, and I enjoy it, and I like people.
Gaye Smith, our very special guest here on Home Folks. And before we wrap things up, I want to remind everyone that if you like what you're hearing, please do business with our Home Folks partners, Pizza Pro Depot in Melbourne, the official pizza of Home Folks and Ken Loggins Online, 2534 East Main in Melbourne, right next to Triple M Discount. For that next Pizza Pro Pizza, call 870-916-5333. Our thanks to Izard County Heating and Cooling, your Heil Elite dealer, online at izardcountyhvac.com or call 870-291-0576, your local HVAC repair experts. Almost Heaven Flea Market, 85 East Main in Melbourne, in the old Mark's Furniture Building. If you love vintage items, antiquing, if you're a collector or treasure hunter, it's a place to be. Come by and browse soon. We're visiting with Gaye Smith, a life well lived. Gaye Smith.
I have been blessed. I get up every day, and that song, counting your blessings, except I can't count that high. That's where I am right now.
Certainly.
So blessed. I can look at my kitchen window and see Kim and Al's house. And I look out my living room window and see Carrie and Grant's house. They're on the farm with me, and they all graduated college. Didn't believe they would ever come back. But, I have been blessed to have them there.
We are blessed to have you as part of our lives and a part of this community. And on behalf of this community, I want to say thank you, not only to you, but, I'm saying thanks right now to Fat, to Tom, to Al, to Grant as well. Just thank you for being the family that you have been and a great example for everyone that's had the privilege of knowing you. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I've enjoyed the visit.
Well, thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Once again, while you're here at the YouTube channel, subscribe. It's as easy as just a mouse click or two, and you'll be notified whenever it's time for a new Home Folks visit to debut here on the YouTube channel, Ken Loggins Online on YouTube. And the next time you're on Facebook, follow us there as well, Ken Loggins Online on Facebook. For Gaye Cooper Smith, I'm Ken Loggins saying so long for just a while. We'll visit again soon on our next Home Folks. Appreciate you joining us.